I'm excited too.
Very excited.
We are live. Yes, it
We
is your
did it.
girl, Counselor at Large, Julia Mejia. You are joining us for a special edition of Woke Women Wednesdays, where we talk about all things Black and Brown, the breakdown. It has been a while since I've been on here, but I come out of hibernation on special occasions, and this is one of those. So I'm extremely excited. As you all know, our office has been doing a lot of work around mental health and wellness. So this is Mental Health and Wellness Awareness Week. So I had to show up,
Month.
and we are in for a treat because we have the queen of mental health and wellness who has been doing this work, living the realities, and creating space and culture for communities to really lean into the conversation, and more importantly, designing programs and events and activities that create space for our people to be fully expressed. So without further ado, I'm going to let my girl do the honors to introduce yourself. So tell us who you are and the name of your organizations, because I know you do a number of different things. Okay, but I just feel like you're everywhere, so I can't believe all of that is happening under one umbrella. So tell us a little bit tell us who you are, the name of
Yes.
your organization, and what you do. And welcome to
Yes.
Woke Women Wednesday.
Yes. No, I think you see me in a lot of places and spaces because I support a lot of people. I don't just promote and support my own self. I like to be in community with other people who are leading different endeavors. So you've probably seen me at a lot of different organizations events, but I'm there as a supporter, not necessarily as an organizer. So hi, everyone. My name is Naisha Deed, and I am the founder of Pure Spark. Pure Spark is an organization that is focused on helping Black folks along on their wellness journey. So whatever that might look like, connecting you with a wellness provider, whether that's a therapist, a yoga teacher, whatever, we try and help people with that. And then, like you said, removing the stigma, talking about my own personal story as it relates to mental illness, mental health diagnosis, sharing kind of what happened in my family. But then more importantly, sharing how I healed from that, right? Because I think that's the most important part. Yes, I want to talk about what happened, but I want to really focus on the healing aspect and what I did to heal. And Pure Spark was really replicated after, the path that I took, which was Western therapy plus ancient healing modalities. So for me, it was talk therapy as well as yoga. And I realized once I got into doing the yoga that like things started opening up for me physically, and I was able to open up mentally and emotionally when I started going to talk therapy. So that's a little bit about me, who I am, and what I do. But thank you so much for taking the time and making space for me to talk during this important month, Mental Health Awareness Month. It's the whole month.
And when it comes to mental health and wellness, it should be 365 days a year.
Absolutely.
Because celebrating it during this month, yes, I understand. But if we're not centering mental health and wellness throughout the entire year, then we're doing a disservice to the craft. We're doing a disservice to the conversation. And more importantly, we're doing a disservice to so many of our people who are living with that stigma. So let's talk a little bit about your purpose in life. Like, can you help our viewers understand the how you got here? Because everybody has a journey, right? You just didn't wake up one day and be like, yo, I'm gonna create Pure Spark. Like, this is why. Like, tell us about your journey.
Yeah. Well, I actually think it was something that was given to me long ago, right? My mission and my purpose, but I ignored it for a very long time because I was so focused on societal standards and what was acceptable and what was celebrated. So what I saw that was acceptable and what was celebrated was, going to college and getting a degree, whether it be in law, business, or, becoming a doctor, right? And so I wanted to follow that path because I wanted to look like the model, citizen, I'm going to go out there, make money and, pay my taxes and do all these things that I'm supposed to do because this is what I see that's celebrated. So even though I've always been a people person, I've always loved to lend a listening ear, I've always been focused on health and wellness, I put that aside to pursue a career that was more lucrative or logical in business. And I graduated during a time when the profession really needed more accountants in the business field. So I graduated during 2005. The Enron Anderson scandal had happened. Sarbanes-Oxley had put together all these new regulations in which auditors had to follow. And so that meant more work, which meant the workforce had to increase, which meant schools were like trying to pump out more accountants. And I was one of those people that kind of got wrapped up in the whirlwind of like, we need more accountants. We need more accountants. It's a good career. You're going to have a stable career. You're going to get paid. You're going to reach that 6 figures, very soon, and all these different things. So that's why I went into that field. And I knew the first day of my internship, I was like, this is what y'all be doing in here. Like, this is it. This is so boring. Again, I'm a people person. I like to talk. I like building connections. The only connection I'm building 8 hours a day for the most part is with my computer, an Excel spreadsheet, and so, but again, right, I did it because I'm thinking, well, everybody else looks happy here, so I have to force myself into this bucket, right? Something must be wrong with me if I'm not happy. I'm getting paid livable wage, right? Because that's always a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting paid livable wage plus some. So why am I complaining, right? And I have, steady job, I have benefits, I have all these different things. Why am I complaining? Why am I complaining? So that's why I ended up staying in the profession for 15 years, because it was steady pay, steady increased raises, and all these other benefits that I was getting. And I ignored my emotional self. I ignored my spiritual self because that's not logical, Naisha, until I got to a point in 2017 when the spiritual self and the emotional self was like, yo, we are deceased. we are walking around like zombies in here, Naisha. You need to pay attention to us. And that was the moment that it was hard for me to get out of bed. It was hard for me to even eat. Like, even drinking a smoothie was like, I can't even swallow this. It was hard for me to talk. Like, I remember having to call my job and let them know that, I don't feel well, but I couldn't even say it because like my voice was like deteriorating. It was like leaving me. I felt like Ariel, from what's the Little Mermaid, and when they steal
Ariel, yeah.
they steal her voice box. That's what I felt like. I felt like somebody went in and took my voice box. I no longer had a voice, right? My memory started to deteriorate. I would go from like one room to another room and forget how I even got there. At one point I'm thinking, I must have early onset of Alzheimer's, so I'm going to go to the hospital and get checked for Alzheimer's, right? And the lady was like, ma'am, you are too young for that. It might be something else, but I don't think you have Alzheimer's. But these were all the warning signs and the symptoms to depression. But what do I do as a Black woman in America? I keep pressing on because you're not going to see me being weak, right? I'm the strong Black woman. I got it. I'm going to figure it out.
And eventually it'll work itself out. Whatever it is will go away. Like we have such a hard time making that connection that we're not well, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And that physical exhaustion, right? When we deny ourselves for such a long period of time that we just crash. And that's what you were going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it got to the point where I didn't want to exist anymore, living in pain, right? And not necessarily physical pain, but emotional pain. And it can equate to physical pain, right? It's very, very uncomfortable when you're dealing with emotional pain. And so I got to that point, but thankfully for my family, and my mom, but I have a pretty big family, a very loving family, a very understanding family that said, you know what, Naisha, you take some time off from work. We will take care of you. We will love you back to health, basically. And
Wow.
essentially, they poured into me. They were there every step of the way, loving on me when I couldn't even love myself. Cooking me meals. Just pouring into me. And that's why I'm so big on community and togetherness, is because yes, okay, mental health professionals are very important, but what's happening when you're done with your session that's only an hour long, maybe once a week? There's more time that you're away from your therapist than you are with your therapist. And that's where the real work begins. And that's why it's so important to have support. So I had that support with my family. And I got to the point where I started feeling better. And my mom said, you know what, Naisha, why don't you share your story? And this was before everybody started talking about mental health, okay? Because now mental health is like trending and everybody's talking about it all over the internet, all over social media. But when my mom suggested I share my story, I wasn't sure if I was ready. But what pushed me to do it, even though I was really scared, was the fact that previous to my own situation, I had lost 5 family members to suicide. And I kept a lot of stuff hidden. And it got to the point where some friends knew, and then they started sharing my story. And I said, you know what? I want to be the author of my own story. I want to tell my story, how it happened, and I want to be the author of that story. And I also am concerned about my cousins and my nieces and my nephews, right? The future generations, because I know this is something that unfortunately runs in the family.
Yep.
So I want to be able to stand firm for them and share my story of overcoming this and letting them know that there's hope, even if you might feel this way, or you might be thinking this way, or you might be going through this thing.
Yeah.
There's hope on the other side, because look at what happened in my situation.
I so appreciate you being so transparent and so present and vulnerable and sharing this with us, right? Because I think your story is a story that a lot of people can relate to, because we don't know what depression looks like. We don't know how it shows up and how it debilitates us, right? And it consumes us to the point where we think it's a physical situation, and we don't realize that it's our mental health and wellness. And I really do appreciate that you named the fact that right now mental health and wellness has become the buzzword, and everyone's all about this. But I really do appreciate you acknowledging that you were doing this and experiencing it and talking about it before everyone else was, right? Because what happens and what I see is that it becomes a buzzword, right? Yeah. And it waters down the intentionality and the spirit in which, folks who are practicing it, living it in this space. And that reality is, I think, really important for those who are tuning in to recognize that there is a difference between that lived experience and people who have been practicing in that space for years, right? Then all of a sudden, you see these people just popping up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're doing this work. And so what I appreciate about you is your lived experience and your profound understanding of what it looks like. But then also what's so beautiful is your desire and your ability to really create space for other people who are going through this, and create the type of environment where people can be fully expressed and take care of themselves without even realizing that's what's happening, right? And so I'm gonna say one thing, and then I'm gonna ask you a question about the organization and the event that you just recently had this past weekend, and then how people can link up with you. But I talk about my own journey and story, and it wasn't until I was at an event in 2016, to be honest with you, that I realized I had what they call untreated trauma. And it was at an event called Trauma in the Village that I went to as a conference in New York, and I decided to bring the concept to Boston. And we created Trauma in the Village in Boston. And we worked with the organization that did it in New York to bring it to Boston. And then we did one which was capacity building the day one. But then the second day was all about different modalities, Reiki,
Mm,
art, like all of the different
yes.
therapies. And we did it for families, because introducing people to the healing arts is part of like helping people learn how to take care of themselves without realizing that they're being taken care of, right? Because we have a problem with that, as you mentioned.
Yep.
So this was in 2016. And the reason why I'm so passionate about mental health and wellness is because, I attempted suicide when I was a kid. It went untreated, it went undiagnosed. And in 2016, when my daughter was 6, I learned that what I was doing was I was passing down my own way of handling trauma, the way my mom did. And
Mm,
I was re traumatizing myself and also teaching my daughter how not to be. And
mm,
that stopped me. And that is why every moment that I have to come out, even out of hiatus, to talk to you around mental health and wellness, it is because it's so deeply important for us, especially in communities of color, for us to recognize that this conversation is not just something that happens during this month, and that we continue to uplift it. So I appreciate you, and your story, and telling it. And I would love our viewers to hear about the amazing event that you hosted on
mm.
Friday. And more importantly, after that, I want people to know how they can connect, how can they be a part of your movement? Because what I see you doing is a movement.
Thank
It's
you.
not just a series of events. You are building culture. I'm part of your Facebook group.
Oh,
I want to hear about all of that. So let's talk about the event that you did first this past weekend on Friday.
yes, yes. So I'm so glad you shared the event that you went to in New York. I feel like New York's always on the cutting edge of things. There's just people there with so much creativity and so much open-mindedness, that they're able to bring things to the public in ways that we're just not doing really in Boston. But it aligns so much with Pure Spark and what we believe, in that there are so many different ways to heal. Like I mentioned initially, talk therapy and yoga was my pathway to healing, right? And so the intention behind Pure Spark and the event that we just had on Friday was to share a pathway to healing, right? And sometimes people look at dance as just like, oh, maybe it's a way to lose weight, or it's just a way to have fun. But when you really break it down, particularly African dance, West African dance, which we partook in on Friday evening at Brook in Mattapan, I think there's like 3 things that I wanted to make sure that I highlighted. Community is always on the list, right? Because community saved me. So the fact that we're gathering, especially after a pandemic when we were so isolated, is healing, right? Because feeling like we belong in a space, especially as Black folks and people of color, it gives us a level of security. So being in a space with community, right? Being in a space where we're able to move our body and partake in self-expression is also important for the mind, the body, right? And overall wellness. Sound. We had 2 drummers there. So there's something about drums, like, that connection to the heartbeat. And once you hear it, I don't care where you are within the diaspora. If you're on the continent, if you're in the Caribbean, right? If you're here in the US, there's something about those drums. When you hear the drums, you just want to get up and move. When I tell you there were people there who thought, it was funny, I don't know how they got it confused. They thought that it was going to be like an African dance performance. Like they thought they were coming for a performance. But when they saw and heard the drums, they got up and started moving. There's something, when you hear the drums, you got to move. So those are the 3 main things that are so healing when it comes to being in community and dancing. And so that's just one pathway. And we want to be able to share with people all the different pathways. Reiki Yes, love it. It's an ancient Asian, I think it was Japanese, created in Japan originally, and it's an energy healing technique that's actually being used in the hospitals. My sister works at Brigham in ICU, and they use it for like pain management so that they can decrease on the amount of pain drugs that they're giving people. So sometimes people are like, well, is this proven? I mean, it's a very ancient technique, and it's actually being used in the hospital. So, but the intention behind our events is to really kind of give people a taste of all the different pathways. And once you come, you enjoy something, it's really up to you to really decide, okay, well, I want to learn more about, Reiki. I want to learn more about yoga because I felt really good after doing that. And I want to continue to feel good. So it's an introduction to that. So in the future, you'll definitely see more of those types of events in and around the community. We specifically picked Mattapan because of a 2016 study that was done that basically stated in all instances of health, whether it be heart disease, high blood pressure, Mattapan ranked the worst. And so we knew that study was done on the physical body, but a lot of times the physical and mental are connected. So if they're struggling physically, most likely they're struggling mentally. So we wanted to start. Yeah, we wanted to start with Mattapan intentionally, but we'll just be doing more of that around the city.
Yeah, and you gotta hit me up.
Yes, come through.
I want to be, I like to be a part of everything and anything that is gonna uplift and move my people and get them to where they need to be in all ways. So whatever I can do, I'm here for it, right? Like, so just know that I'm here for it. Tell our audience, like, if they want to support, whether they want to make a donation, whether they want to volunteer, whether they want to partner, how can they find you? How they can get at you? Tell us all of that.
Yes. So we are an LLC. We are not a nonprofit. So people can make a donation. It's just not going to be tax deductible. We are looking for a fiscal sponsor, meaning a nonprofit that we can kind of roll up into so that people can make those tax deductible donations for a particular project that we will be hopefully announcing soon once we find a fiscal sponsor. But until then, you can find us on all social media platforms. That includes Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just type in the word Pure Spark, PURESPARK. You can also check out our website, www.yourpurespark.com. And, we're pretty active on social media. And yeah. You can email us at info@yourpurespark.com if you have any questions or if you're interested in partnering with us in any way, shape, or form. We do a lot of partnering, and I think that's about it. Yeah,
I want people to know about that Facebook group. I don't know where I'm special.
Yes.
I'm in some. Come on.
I know the Facebook group. Yeah. So that group actually started. Oh man, I'm trying to remember when we started the group. I guess it was like 2020. I think it was during the pandemic we started the group.
Yeah, it was.
And I don't even know what it's called. That's why I have to go to Facebook to like even.
It's the mental health, and I don't know what it was, but I saw mental health, and I was like, I'm in that group it was for providers and practitioners.
Yes, it's for people who, if you're a provider or if you're somebody who's like an advocate, like you're an advocate, so you're in there.
I was there. I was like, I'm there. Yes,
you're there. But what gets shared in that group is, mental health events that's going on in and around the city. Sometimes people will post in the group that they're looking for a therapist or, a yoga teacher or somebody in the wellness space. They'll post the inquiry there. Sometimes job postings get posted there as well. Virtual events with different organizations like the APA, which is American Psychology Association, things like that. Just trying to create a space and community so that people who care about this stuff can kind of know what's going on.
So I have a few questions for you, right? One, Are you linked up to the Boston Public Schools as a vendor for their BPS partnerships?
I am not.
Have you ever heard of it?
I have not.
Well, this is divine intervention, right? Because everybody in the city of Boston is complaining about that they're trying to reach their diversity goals. They can't find Black and brown entrepreneurs. And you are such an amazing example, right, of the intersection of mindfulness, community, mental health, and wellness. And I know that you've done some programming with Naysage that my daughter participates in. So
Yes.
you
I love
already got
it.
that clearance and that stamp of approval for working with kids, right? So look at BPS partnerships
Okay.
and look for opportunities for you to do this work within the space of Boston Public Schools.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I need more
And
y'all in that space.
definitely. I know where you're going with this and working with the students, but after talking to the girls, Naysage, the group, which your daughter is a part of, one of the things that came to my mind is that we're so focused on providing tools for the students, which is important, but in the conversations that I'm having, the teachers, I think, also need some help.
So, so I don't know if you've been listening to any of my hearings on the BPS budget, but that's exactly when you think about professional development in the Boston Public Schools. What I've been saying is that we have this expectations that our teachers were just going to show up and just be robots and not deal with the social emotional. So there is an opportunity, right?
Okay.
So one is, it's the BPS partnership. So some of it is for programming with the schools for activities with young people. There's three opportunities. Then there's professional development for educators and creating programs that help support their social, emotional, mental well-being. And BPS needs to see our children as the community as a whole, and then there's the parent piece.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would recommend, and I know I'm live, so people probably taking notes, so you better hurry up and write this down and own this, and this would be pure spark, but design something that is created for programming for teachers, students, and families, right? And you could do something where you do things for each of the segment of the populations that you're serving, and then it culminates into something that you bring them all together, right? So think about your programming that way. But there's some money out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely interested in making an impact. Particularly my focus is the Black community. But talking with Nisaj and the girls, it really only took two conversations, really only one, for me to see that, like, we got to focus on the teachers too.
Right. And it's everybody's experiencing that trauma.
And I think I see a lot of attention going to and maybe because I'm not in BPS and I don't necessarily know everything that's going on, but the optics, me as a constituent from the outside looking in, not knowing all the details, I see a lot of focus on the students as if they are, I don't want to say they're the issue, right? Or they're the thing that needs to get fixed, quote unquote. Yep. A lot of attention on the parents, but not necessarily a lot on, like, what's going on with the teachers, right? Yep. And how some of their trauma, right, that they're bringing to the classes and how that gets seeped into the students, right? And so what is going on the teacher front? What kind of resources are they getting? I don't hear,
or not getting,
or they're not getting.
Right. So think about this. So if there's anything that you got out of this conversation is an idea and an institution in which you could do a little bit of I always think of things as pilots, right? So if you do something small and you can grow it, maybe start with one school and pitch it and then grow it, right? But
Right.
as an entrepreneur, in this space, there are opportunities for you to continue to live your purpose, right? Share your gifts and be compensated for the work
Oh,
that you're bringing
absolutely.
into the space, right? So
Oh, for
let's
sure.
make sure that there are as many opportunities in the city that, or even outside the city, that you could take advantage of. So we're at time. I can't believe we're at time.
Yes. That was
So
fun. Thank you.
that was, and so tell us again, your email address, your website, and so that people can make sure that they follow up with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in. I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation. Um, it's really important for me as an organization to help Black folks along on their wellness journey. And so you can find us on social media at Your Pure Spark. You can also find us at our website, www.yourpurespark.com. And you can also email us, info@yourpurespark.com. And, we're really looking forward to doing more events in the future that really relate to all the different healing modalities, getting the family out there, starting to heal. That's really what it's all about. And just having support on that journey while you're doing that. That's what we're here for.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And everybody knows on the Woke Women Wednesdays how I roll, right? And so this is a special occasion. And I'm going to be coming back on soon. But right now, this is the one person that got me out of my retirement.
Wow.
For Woke Women Wednesdays, as you know, usually at 11 o'clock in the morning, it's my sister in service, Senator Diane Wilkerson, kicks you off, and then usually at 8 o'clock at night, I close y'all out. And we've been a little bit busy with budget season and all that, but like I had to come through tonight to create some space to talk about something that is so dear and near to me. So Woke Women Wednesdays, when we talk about all things Black and brown, don't forget to stay woke. Have a beautiful night, and thank you so much for being with me tonight. Okay, have a beautiful night, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay.